like to bring in one more big. There was a name from New Mexico, JT Toppin. He's Obi Toppin's younger brother. You just saw him with Indy. Super athletic. He's a 6'9" in college, 6'7" pro. Gotcha. You can tell his 6'9" was what he was listed at New Mexico. He was just at the NBA Combine and measured in at 6'7". So he's 6'7", but he has a 7-foot wingspan. Plays really athletic, really good defense, really good around the rim. Was a good player for New Mexico last year. And all reports were going through where the process where I was keeping up with what was going. May 29th was the deadline for people to either stay in the draft or get out of the draft, or younger underclassmen. They could go back to college. He stepped out on May 28th, but the problem was all reports were basically from mid-May on that Texas was pretty much a lock to get JT Toppin if he decided to come back to college. It was pretty much a lock. It was every report you would read was it's either Texas or he's going to the pros. And he was going to be a first-round pick if he didn't come back. He ends up getting out and immediately commits to Texas Tech. And this is another one where we talked about it a little bit earlier with the defensive tackle from TCU, that this was another one that I actually read the reports of this before the commitment came out, that I started to read reports that, no, he's not going to Texas. Texas Tech gave him the bag. Like, Texas Tech has the bag for him, the NIL bag, that they're offering him more. And there was reports that you read that if he came back, he was looking at 7 figures. He wanted 7 figures to come back to college. Now, you have no idea if those numbers are right. Those are all just reports and people talking about it.
Is that good?
7 figures?
7 figures good?
$1 million?
I know, but he's that.
No, I'm not saying he necessarily deserved it. I'm saying that was the same number we heard. That's what players are asking for.
Okay, yeah, I got you.
So that's what you're saying is that's what he's saying. If I'm coming back, I want to make X amount of money. Now, that's always negotiable. And so you don't really know if that's what he's going to make. But this does lead to a thing we've seen with a few transfers especially. And it's possibly why they lost Ron Holland and A.J. Johnson last year. The freshmen that were coming in was, as much as I will get flack on the text line and people will give crap to Rodney Terry on a lot of these things, at the end of the day, the NIL money for basketball is a little lower than where it needs to be if you want to build a consistent championship roster. It feels that there's been now 3 players we can say in the Rodney Terry era who have walked away for money reasons. Now, that may be partly a decision made by the coaching staff that they don't want to have players that are solely there for the money. It may be that they decided that the money wasn't right and they'll go get some other players and they feel they can get 2 guys for the price of that they can help commit to the team. We don't know what any of those are. But the reports were another player that was supposed to be a lock for Texas is not going to be at Texas next year and will be at Texas Tech. And the reported reason was that the bag wasn't big enough in Texas. The money wasn't big enough in Texas. Now, we know Texas has all the money, and it could have been a deal where he was asking for $1 million, and Texas said, you're not worth $1 million. We'll give you what you're worth. And Texas Tech said, cool, we'll give you $1 million. We don't care. We have it. We'll pay you. We need somebody on our team. That could be that, and that's the right decision. But if you want to say that Texas is a true basketball school, and Texas is what Kentucky and North Carolina and Duke, they pay their players in the NIL money right now. They live in that NIL landscape. UConn lives in that NIL landscape. So you have to walk that fine line of trusting your coaching staff and your general managers to find the right players that still fit in. And I can't tell you if that was the case, that they still wanted him or not. I can tell you that everything I read about and everything that I talked to people about was that Texas was a head-on favorite until Texas Tech came in with a better offer, and Texas didn't match it. And that is a piece where Texas is now stuck really needing another big. There is a few more names of people who have pulled out of the NBA draft that will still be around. There are still a few more people in the transfer portal, but definitely a big loss for Texas to not get another piece, another big there.
Yeah, I mean, you would think that how many roster spots are there on basketball? 15.
They still have, I believe, at least 2 more scholarships available.
Yeah, I mean, I think in this NIL landscape, basketball players have to be making more than any other sport, though, right? Just because of
quarterbacks make more. Well, I think a star basketball player might make more, but I think
okay, I'm just gonna say like your average starter on a Power 5 basketball team makes more than an average D-line or linebacker starter.
I would say, depending on the school. I think major schools that's probably somewhat true, but a lot of schools it's not as true because basketball is not a money generator the same way football is.
But my point is that, I mean, you're at Texas. We're trying to be a basketball school. Yeah. We've had success in the last 2 years, I think you need to make that call and make that money happen, especially if you're in the position right now where you don't have a big. I don't know how much JT Toppin's worth. I don't know how many points he averaged last year at New Mexico. What
the big thing is he is a guy that is projected to be a mid to late first round pick in the NBA draft that you could have picked up.
Yeah.
That you in a position you really need. That was the report. I do not know what the money was, and it could have been more. It could have been that Texas offered 7 and they offered a high 7 or a bigger 7. I don't know what any of those pieces are because none of that stuff is in any of the reports. But I do know that was a case again of Texas basketball not necessarily having the bag that they needed to have, because we know that was part with Ron Holland, and part of Ron Holland too is he didn't want to go to school. He wanted to go play in the G League. AJ Johnson wanted to go make money immediately, and they said the offers weren't good enough, and they may not have been playing a ton for the Longhorns either. So Texas is still going to be good next year. Trey Johnson's going to be good. Going to the SEC is going to help you out a little bit. But a piece there that is an interesting piece to watch for if you're watching Texas basketball, because everyone kind of had that as the last big piece you were getting, and now they don't know, but you need another piece